Penetration testing costs money, it takes time, so if you're gonna do it, you might as well get everything you can out of it. In this video, I'll show you how to maximize the value of your next pen test, from expanding the scope, to stress testing your team, to turning the report into something way more useful than just a PDF you email to your auditor. So first, let's talk scope. If you're testing a web app, you may want to consider bundling up very similar apps to throw into the testing scope. Like if you have a main app, the testers are already going to hit the API just through exercising all the endpoints the app uses. But if you have endpoints that don't get hit by the app, maybe some that are just used internally or by customers directly, make a note of that or give the testers your API specs so they can get complete coverage of testing the API. Maybe also if you have like an admin app that manages the main application, that would be something similar enough that I would throw it in. So if there's like a completely different app, that's probably not going to work. That would be scoped and billed separately. Plus, having one report that covers two totally separate apps would be a little bit confusing to read and hard to write to begin with. So take everything that's kind of logically the same app, your main app, your API, any supporting apps, and have that be the scope rather than just, the main app. You can maximize what you're getting out of the engagement that way. Also, if you were thinking about getting some infrastructure or your internal network tested too, now might be the time to do that alongside your web app test. For one, it'll give the testers more context around what you do, what the purpose of the network is, so they can better understand it, test it more precisely, and deliver a more tailored report. But also, it's likely going to be cheaper to bundle or add on a network test to a web app test than it would be to purchase them completely separately at different times. So ask about bundling it up front. You might be surprised how much more coverage you get just for a little bit more budget. So next, you can take full advantage of the testing period by also using it to test and train your blue team or your defenders. Most people will treat a pen test like a home inspection. Just tell me everything that's broken and I'll fix it afterwards. That's fine, you do want full coverage. But what if you use that week to test your team's detection and response too? You could let your blue team try to spot the attack traffic. Don't whitelist the offensive security team in your alerting software, but see what fires and see how your team responds. Or maybe even keep your blue team in the dark altogether and see how long it takes them to notice the unusual behavior, if at all. It doesn't have to be full on red versus blue the entire time. You do want to give the consultants time to test and to find all the issues and do breadth of coverage. You don't want to be IP blocking them and kicking them out and ending their sessions all the time. Or, maybe you're not going to get the best results possible. But even a day or two of active defense can really teach everybody a ton. So a few caveats. You may still want to whitelist the attackers on your web app firewall. After all, you're paying for the test of your app, not for a test of how good Cloudflare or AWS WAF is. You'd rather them be hitting the app directly and getting to the core of the issue than getting stopped by the WAF before any root issues are discovered. So just make sure you clear this with your pen test provider ahead of time so they know what to expect. And honestly, knowing that they might encounter resistance is probably going to make the hackers bring their A game. So after the actual testing period, you're going to get a report. Be sure to use that report strategically. I worked with a software team once where the engineering lead received the pen test delivery email, downloaded the PDF, gave it a quick once-over, and he immediately shipped it off to their PCI auditor. In his mind, that was all closed now. The engagement's behind him, on to the next thing. He didn't even think about using the report to actually fix the issues in their product, get an overall view of risk, or help plan technology or policy improvements, help guide training, none of that. And a good report will help you do all of those things. Now, if you didn't get a good report, you may have just gotten a scanner dump or some brag sheet full of hacker ego. In that case, you may not be able to do much else with it, and hopefully your auditor is cool with it. But if you want to see how to spot providers that will do the bare minimum or are writing more of a cool stories report than something to try to help you, check out my video on the 5 types of bad penetration tests and how to avoid them. So most obviously, your report should be able to speak to your engineers. You should be able to give them the report or turn the issues into tickets, and then see those issues through to remediation. Hopefully your report is specific enough and tailored to your stack enough that your devs can easily understand and recreate the issues. But the report should also be able to speak to executives. They will have an executive summary that will speak to the issues from a high level and give them an overall view of risk. This is usually the first part of the report, so you can even just ship that part to them if they don't need to see the full gory details. This is a great source of info for building summaries or slide decks to present to a board meeting also. The report and the experience you had over the testing period should also inform you of needed changes to your security team, your DevOps team if they're pulling double duty with security too, or even spot weak points in developer training. Maybe there are technology improvements that can be made, like increased monitoring or logging that would have helped you respond better to the active attacks. Maybe there was low-hanging fruit, some vulnerabilities that you could have easily discovered yourself with a vulnerability scanner or as part of an ongoing vulnerability management service. Or maybe you realize that you have gaps in your policies and procedures and you were left just making things up as you went while those attacks were ongoing. You can also use your real-world pen test results as a guide to your next risk assessment. Were the risks you assessed accurate, or does this update your thinking on it? So none of this should be about finger pointing, but improving together and strengthening your overall posture. After the testing and the report, hopefully you've successfully remediated some issues, and now you'll want to schedule a retest to validate that those fixes work as expected. You won't want a whole new test, but a focused retest of just the issues that appeared on the report that you've now attempted to remediate. By the way, this should probably be included in the overall cost of an engagement or a cheap add-on. Don't let anyone make you buy a whole new test for this. It's usually offered for free if you schedule it within like 45 days or so of the original report delivery. So the retest will help you make sure the fixes really worked and that the issues are no longer exploitable. Or if mistakes in remediation were made, the testers will catch that and let you know and let you try again. Afterwards, you should have a cleaner report to share with your auditor, your clients, or whoever else might ask for your pen test. It'll still show the original issues, but it also shows that your vulnerability management process worked and that you saw it all the way through to remediation. No one is expecting perfection, but they want to see that you responsibly handle what is thrown at you. If you find that you are having difficulty remediating anything or even understanding an issue, don't hesitate to ask for a debriefing call where you can chat with the testers and even get a live demo. This can help clear up confusion and let your devs understand the necessary remediation better. It can even be a good experience for just anyone on your team to jump on and join and see an exploit in action. So use that opportunity as live training. In addition to a retest, you can also ask for a non-technical executive summary. Sometimes this will just be part of the report, maybe the first little bit that doesn't contain technical details, so you can share it somewhat publicly or with potential clients. But it could also be an attestation letter letting everyone know what was done, that the issues were found, and high-level metrics, how many of each issue, and that they were found to be remediated. So now, not only have you gotten your pen test that you can use as evidence for your SOC 2, ISO, or HIPAA audit, which is where most people stop, you've also seen things through to remediation and have further evidence of that via the retest report and the executive summary letter. You also got some live fire drills for your defenders and takeaways from that to help improve your processes and policies for next time. And on top of all that, hopefully whatever pen test company you used isn't one that just disappears after the test, but one that you can rely on to answer occasional security questions. Take advantage of that opportunity. And no, you aren't being annoying or pushy when you do these things. I can say as somebody who's been pen testing for over a decade, we don't mind any of the things we've talked about here. In fact, it's nice to see a client who actually cares. Sometimes putting in a lot of work, researching, writing, pouring creativity into these tests and into the reports, only to see it ignored or treated like a checkbox exercise is demoralizing. So having an attentive client that maximizes the value of our engagements would be more than welcome to us. Anyway, I hope all this helps. Please milk your next pen test for all it's worth. Goodbye.